step forward.
Hello. This is the Then and Out podcast, best podcast and podcast. God.
The one time he remembered to hit the record button, he can't get through the intro.
I don't know
what that was,
bro. My brain was like,
ladies. That was Dev's tongue. If you're interested,
Jesus Christ, what was that? Welcome to the Then and Out podcast. Thanks you guys for tuning in.
And take 3.
Yeah, we're doing a video that we tried to do a little bit ago, but there wasn't a real trailer up for it. Actually, we're reacting to the Thor 4, Love and Thunder. Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm excited to see what this is. This has been one of the movies I've been kind of waiting on for a little bit for all the different things. Like I think Beta Ray Bill's supposed to make an appearance. We have Gore the God Butcher, Jane Follett, a lot of characters that are new to the MCU from the comics that I'm been excited to see for a while now. So we can go ahead and get into it. You guys have anything you want to say before we start?
Yeah, happy tax day. Happy tax day. If you're miserable and hate life, don't worry about this. You're not by yourself.
These hands were once used for battle. Now they're but humble tools for peace. I need to figure out
Okay.
Oh, the music.
exactly who I am.
Look how Ghost of Tsushima there. You know, look like Ghost of Tsushima there. I saw it.
Come on, Nordic. Oh, he's working out again. Okay.
He's doing the ropes.
Choose my own path. Live in the moment.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's a Guardian sequel for sure.
My superheroing days are over.
Tie in. But they left. Dipped out.
Okay, so he stopped. He's like left the Guardians, I guess.
They left him. Oh, he got the
I know
farmer.
this song. I know this
you
song.
know this song.
Mm-hmm.
Even you know this song.
It's like it's more 80s shit.
Older than you, Dev.
You ever feel lost?
Older than me.
There she goes, my girl.
That's
Not me. What? Just listening.
I thought they were going to show her in those for a second.
Whoa. Here's the thing. You saw those arms, man. You saw those damn arms. She hit the gym. She hit the gym like that.
You know they
More than once.
no, like
Gotta go back for a second.
under the
Hold on.
helmet they switched in Ronda Rousey, and like over the helmet that's the that's when just
It looks. Alright.
He said Ronda Rousey. She don't look at that no more.
The hammer was kind of okay. It's a broken hammer. Okay, so I guess they put the hammer back together somehow.
Right, because it was destroyed by
Hello.
yeah, but then it was so I guess that this timeline's hammer was destroyed by Hela because they brought the other hammer back from another timeline.
But they took that
second
from the
movie.
Like,
That one went
right,
back. They had to
yeah.
return it.
Right, Cap had to return that one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
they
Stormbreaker's
restored
still
it.
around. I don't
Stormbreaker's
know
around.
what the fuck they're trying to do with this movie, bro.
Well,
I saw New Asgard being a thing and them having that. I don't know. I don't know where Gore. They didn't even bring Gore in at all. The thing is, it's weird to me. Gore the God Butcher is such a dark story and like has so much murder and death in it. But the tone of this trailer was like so like Guardians happy go lucky, and I'm just like, I thought it was gonna be more of a darker tone thing.
My guess of what's gonna happen is like Thor's gonna start the movie off. It's like, you know what, I've done enough. I'm gonna retire. He's gonna be chilling. He's gonna hand over the mantle to Jane. It's gonna seem all cool. Then Gore's gonna show up and be like, oh god, she can't handle Gore by herself. Now we have to team up to take down Gore.
Right.
Yay. Yeah,
I hope they don't make him. Don't make him
way.
Ultron. Don't make him Ultron.
So here's the thing. I remember first and foremost, this was a teaser. This is what 35, 40 seconds. It was very,
It was
very
a minute
brief.
30 something.
Is that a minute 30? But it didn't have that much dialogue, and it only showed Jane for like the last 2 or 3 seconds. It didn't show Gore at all.
Right.
It didn't really show much conflict at all. The music also was meant to be much more uplifting, almost kind of trying to get back into the saddle. So I don't. Owen mentioned the idea of him like, well, I'm going to retire. He basically retired. The last time we saw him, he was retired. He was out of shape. He's getting into shape now. So I don't know if he's going to get into shape to retire. I'm not sure how that plays out.
When we saw him last, he was still running with. He was starting to run with the Guardians. I'm guessing that montage of him working out probably happens while he is with the Guardians, and then he retires like 30 minutes into the movie after like, yeah, it's not working out with the Guardians. I'm retiring. I'm chilling.
I think it may be as opposed to him saying, because it's all speculation, but as opposed to him being like, well, I'm retiring from action. Maybe I'm going to go my own path away from the Guardians. Plus the Guardians probably like, we don't want you with our squad. Because he gets that badass armor. You see him wearing that yellow and blue armor. I know it has a name in that Thor armor he wears, but he's clearly back in the saddle. He's clearly trying to get back to do something. I can't imagine him be like, well, I'm gonna get into shape. I'm gonna get this badass armor. I'm gonna get Stormbreaker, and then I'm gonna go sit on the couch and play, PS5 again.
Funny enough, didn't if I remember right in the comments, I think to beat Gore, he had to like dual wield hammers. Like he had a Stormbreaker, like another hammer to fight Gore in the comics.
I have.
Yeah, he had the sword actually, and the axe, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he dual wielded something to fight Gore with the Necro sword.
Here's the thing also. Do you think they will actually have him defeat Gore in this movie? If they're setting up Jane Foster to be so much, you call her Love and Thunder, whatever, do you think they're going to have her be the one that actually puts down Gore? I
don't think so, per se, just because the story arc of Gore, the God Butcher, like Gore fights Thor at different parts of his life. I think he fought him when he was really young. Like he fought him at different points of his life, and Thor had to find out who it was. Like it was like that whole story is development of Thor as a character. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if they kill Thor off or send him somewhere else, this may be it. Like I think this is like the bow on top of his story arc, maybe as a person, as a character.
That's my guess.
And then like Jane's just around. I don't think they'll have Jane beat him. I mean, she'll probably be around and fight, but I think this is very much so going to be like a Thor tale wrapping up his character arc.
Yeah, and that thing is, that would make sense overall. It would. I mean, it definitely would, especially since all the old guard is kind of leaving the MCU. But it's so weird for them to do this, changing the guard right after they pretty much had him they had a perfect send off for him before with Endgame, and then they brought him back just to send him off now. Or it's a
how did they send him off Endgame?
Well, Endgame, the idea of him, it could have been like as far as how Cap, he gets too old, he kind of retires. Iron Man, spoiler, dies. Could have been the same thing where Thor's like, he hands the mantle off to Valkyrie to become the king or the ruler of New Asgard. Right. It could have been kind of cool for him to be like, well, I'm going off. I'm gonna kind of walk off in my own path and do my own thing. But this movie comes back clearly to fight something. It seems like he's coming back to fight something, as opposed to him handing off Stormbreaker or the Mjolnir off to Jane or whoever else. He's still using them at least a little while to fight something. So it's kind of weird.
With the way Endgame ended, it didn't end up as a send off for Thor necessarily.
No, it didn't. It did not. It should have.
It could have. It really could have. It would have made sense instead of doing a whole extra movie,
right?
To essentially do another send off.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm gathering from this.
I agree.
I think though, without doing that, I don't think he's had enough of development arc as a character per se.
I think he's had some of the most. He's had
probably the most, maybe the most.
I don't know, man, because I feel like obviously with Tony, he had like his 3 movies. Captain America had 3 movies, I guess technically if you count Civil War.
I mean, I guess,
yeah. And then with Thor, like he's been around and been doing stuff, but with Ragnarok, I mean, it was technically development for him, but I feel like there were a lot of other elements. Like it was more so the relationship with him and Loki kind of like resolving that.
I feel like between Endgame, Infinity War, Thor got probably more development than anyone. Like seeing him go like full Dark Revenger in Infinity War, and then like be broken down after all the trauma that's happened to him in Endgame. Like his arc made sense to me.
Especially if you go back to Thor 1, you see how he is the most like hubristic, larger than life egomaniac. To see him completely broken down. There's a part in Infinity War, which I know y'all do like that one, where he actually has this whole speech where he's talking to like Rocket, like Rocket's like, why are you doing this? Are you sure you can handle this kind of thing? He's like, what do I have to lose? I've already lost I lost my family, I lost my world, I lost my eye. What else could they do to me? And he pretty much kind of cries a little bit. He's like, I'm a broken man. And to see that kind of character to go through that much, to start from there to go all the way down to there, it actually is a complete arc. That's what I'm saying. Overall, all the
going
stories.
Through the stages of grief, where you have that level of like he's been broken down. I think now is the point where he like builds himself back up to be content.
Yeah,
I feel like at the end of Endgame, like he was still, like you said, he was broken, and he went with the Guardians to kind of find himself again, which is why he kind of just like left Asgard to Valkyrie and kind of like, hey, you run this.
Yeah, it does seem like he's on the mend. Yeah, you're right. At the end of Endgame, he's on the mend. He's like trying to get out of his depression. And it shows that he's still heavy at the beginning of the movie. I'm guessing at the beginning of this movie, he's trying to get back into. We've all been depressed. We've all had rough times. I mean, 2020 and 2021 were rough for all of us. So it's kind of the same idea. He's trying to get back on the saddle.
And I think with somebody like him, where he's been alive for like hundreds of years, I think it would take a lot more time for him to develop. Because again, especially at the first Thor movie, he's been around for like thousands of years now. Where
already,
I can't imagine. Like I understand. I know older people that are like 60s being stuck in their ways. So I can't imagine being like 3,000 being stuck in my ways. Where I've had the best, glorious life ever, and then now I have to like go through so much trauma and pain to break me down and break my ego and turn. Like again, I think he'd need the most development out of anybody just because he's been around for so long.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point though too. Like you said, he is very old. Like you all said, he's thousands of years old. But two, he's a king or a prince, technically.
Right, he's royalty.
Whatever. He's royalty. So you are pretty much told from birth that your opinions are actually a gospel. That what you think is right. I mean, it's a lot of, you are supposed to be egotistical on some level too. So that to find out in any way that you are wrong or challenged, it's a lot to break down.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by the movie, honestly. I don't know. I'm skeptical because of the tone of the trailer. And like, if it was a different villain, maybe if it didn't involve Gore, I just know Gore's story is such a dark fucking story with like the amount of murder and like sadness and trauma that character particularly goes through, and then how much he's trying to inflict on Thor. I'm like, I mean, maybe it's a throw off, like the tone of it is a throw off to make you not expect what's coming with that character, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we get another trailer kind of giving a look at.
We'll definitely get more trailers. This is barely a teaser.
Honestly, at this point with Thor, I think they have accommodated to that tone that they use. Like I feel like that tone is not going away for
sadly
Thor movies.
I like it, man.
Like whether it's
y'all are in the minority,
a whole planet, or literal butchering of like gods, whatever it may be.
That's crazy.
They say like, yeah, we're gonna keep it 80s rock band tone. Yeah.
And you brought it up in that when we talked about Thor Ragnarok in particular. Like, they take in the darkest stories in narrative history, almost like with Ragnarok, and they're like making it fun, happy. I'm like, bro, people are dying.
The planet huge was amounts. Destroyed. And then all the inhabitants of that planet were
genocide.
Well, half the inhabitants of that planet were killed by Thanos at the end of that movie / beginning of Infinity War. Like,
yeah, it was a rough dismount.
The body count was high.
Ragnarok was high. Well, so in Thor Ragnarok, we're meant to believe that at least a vast majority of those Asgardians were on that ship, and so they didn't get blown up with Asgard. I'm sure some got killed. I'm sure they did.
No, I'm talking about like that ship that flew off.
Yeah, at the beginning of Infinity War. At the beginning. So the thing is that the tone at the beginning of Infinity War isn't happy-go-lucky Merry win. No, that's not. Very, very dark. I mean, that's the darkest. That's some of the darkest shit we've seen in the MCU. Right. Is that the opening of Infinity War. So I still think that they have that gear and Thor in the Infinity War isn't happy-go-lucky. That guy is like tortured. He's very much a tortured soul.
Love that Thor. Right.
So I think both the Thors, the Taikai Waititi Thor that was in Thor Ragnarok and the Thor that's in the Infinity War, those Chris Hemsworth can do both. It's a matter of just finding which one you're going to go with. But I know y'all aren't a biggest fan of that vibe, and I agree. If they go with the vibe of him being whimsical and nonsensical, when you have a guy called Gore the Butcher running around, it's like that makes no sense.
No, Gore the God Butcher.
Even worse, a God Butcher.
I like that tone. Like, I love the Guardians movies because of that tone. I think that was the thing that really made those movies.
The second Guardians movie was trash.
Yeah. But you can't have you had to have some pathos and gravity when you have gravitas when you have a villain, a dark villain. Otherwise, it loses all of its luster. Right. So I want them to make sure they balance it properly. I think they will.
I think that was the benefit with the Guardians movies, like the villains in that they were kind of dark, but they weren't so like with what's the dude's name with the hammer, the Ronan the Accuser. Like, he's a dark character, but he's not like, in comparison to somebody like Gore or comparison to like Surtur or Hela, like he's not that dark. You can play around with that. But I think they're taking some of the darkest moments in MCU history and Norse mythology history with like Ragnarok and even with like Gore, and they're like does that need to be happy-go-lucky?
Wait, Ronan literally tried to blow up a planet. Like,
yeah, no, I'm saying he's dark. It's dark, but like he wasn't
the dark.
Not to the he's here in darkness level, But like Gore is like like he's going around murdering gods and torturing. Like he wants to torture Thor. Like he didn't just want to kill this man. He wants to torture him for whatever reason.
I mean, a God Butcher. that's a name.
Like, that's a dark
accuser versus God Butcherer. That's it.
So much so, if you look at his panels of that comic, like those comic, like the coloring and saturation is darker tone. Like it's a dark ass comic all around.
It's also more recent. He's a more recent character overall than the accuser. Because the accuser was made by Jack Kirby. Yeah.
I feel like that era of like that bronze and silver age of comics in general was kind of like more happy-go-lucky because heroes were really more happy-go-lucky until I think when we talked to Graham, it was like the Punisher and Wolverine stuff started dropping.
Right,
all the anti-heroes came in.
Yeah, there was a heroes code, but still affected overall content. And then
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. That's all I really got to say about it. You guys have any other closing remarks to the trailer?
Just real quick, I'm curious to see how Jane gets dubbed. I know in the comic books, I know how it happens in the comic books and everything. But I'm curious to see how they do it because she hasn't been around that much at all in the movies recently. So I'm curious to see how they get her involved as far as being worthy of Mjolnir. I don't know.
Did she get any development really?
She was in one movie. No, she was in two movies. She was in Thor 1 and 2. She was not in
She was in WandaVision, wasn't she? Or was that just a girl?
Was that? No, that was. I don't think that was her.
Cat. That was just like the Cat character, right?
Yeah. Cat was a big character.
She was there, but like Jane wasn't there. No.
I don't know what Jane been doing.
She had a cameo-esque in Endgame, but it wasn't really anything worth mentioning. So I'm bewildered to see what they do with how to bring her back.
All this isn't a diversity push just to have a woman hero. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, it is a character.
It is a character. It's very much a character.
It is, but like, is it not like for her to drop this soon? With no development, then you already like the fact you have to balance like us.
When Thor is like rationally retiring, like that's
but you're gonna have to balance the story of like her origin story as that character along with wrapping up Thor's arc. It's like you're double timing it.
Thor's been that character for like over 10 years now, right? Like over 10 years.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's like too soon for that. I'm saying it too soon in the sense of like it doesn't feel like she's got up to this point. Either give her own movie or like give me some more like show her
give us time for her to I feel like in this maybe it's they're saying it for multiple movies.
Like honestly this movie's going to end up being her movie.
That's what I'm thinking too. They almost would have to give her more time to do. It had to almost be like a two-hander where you've seen a lot of her journey in this movie. Not you can't just throw her in at the end like, oh my gosh, she has a hammer, and she's like in the third act she has a hammer and she's killing off. That would make no sense. You have to almost say from the jump where you're seeing her start off like kind of.
It could be a buddy cop thing. If it's like a buddy cop thing where they're together the whole time, I could see that being a lot more viable.
I don't know about a buddy cop. Now, I think it's going to be like Thor's going to be to have his specific mission, his journey that he's going to do. Jane's going to be having her mission. Over here, and they're gonna collide at some spot. That's just my guess.
Something,
it's a long ass movie.
Curious. I mean, it will be. They're long.
Always are like 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. I mean, Batman was 3 hours, so they're not short movies. Don't exist anymore.
I don't even know how long the Guardians is gonna be in this movie for, if at all.
Yeah, I guess the first like 20 minutes. I'm guessing they're getting like a cameo little montage thing of Thor being with him until he's getting dropped off by them.
That's what I think. Yeah, I imagine in this trailer we pretty much only saw the first act primarily too. So which that could be that she got the hammer earlier because the hammer is cracked too. So the hammer's still cracked.
We'll see how it goes. I'm intrigued to see where this goes. It's I'm just ready to see Gore. Honestly, that's a character I thought was cool as fuck when I first read through that whole run he did. So I'm ready to see him on screen.
Right on.
And plus, I'm a little bit of a Bale fan, so I want to see how he tackles this role.
To the chagrin of Otis, I'm curious to see that too. And I bet you anything, the actual trailer will have a very different vibe.
Right.
I guess they were trying to this particular teaser kind of like, hey, it's Thor again. The last time we saw Thor, he was heavy set and very depressed. They were trying to get him back to the audience as far as like, hey, your buddy Thor is back. It's a good times, good feelings. The actual trailer can be very much like, hey, here's the real vibe of the movie. It's a little more dark, has a real actual villain in the scope.
It's not gonna be dark.
I mean, darker. I mean, the villain ain't gonna be happy. It's Gore, the God Butcherer, but we'll see.
I mean, like, Ragnarok is literally the end of their world. Like, if that's not dark, they don't make dark.
Fair. I see what you're saying.
I will say though, what the difference is, like Gore is like not universal threat, but like he's killing Celestial. Like, well, the power he has is the power to kill Celestials, and we already seen how strong and how powerful they are in internals and like this grand scheme of things.
Like
the fact that
they
sword can
had
decapitate one
Odin
of those.
die. Do you know how big that is? Like comic
Yeah,
wise, like
he wasn't
Odin
killed.
died.
He was at old
wasn't
age, though.
killed.
He wasn't
But
killed.
still, like he is one of the superpowers within the. Like he's one of the strongest people in Marvel's universe. Like he's
Yeah,
a
but
top
they made that
guy.
seem like that was his
He's not
natural
God
cycle.
almost.
Like he's just dying of old age. That's
Yeah,
like
but and also it was that scene. If you remember that scene where it was a sad, somber scene. It wasn't like laughs and chuckles. It was very much you
Right.
saw Loki and Odin. Loki and Thor mourning the loss of their father. And then the
they would
scene right
have
after
murdered
where
Odin.
she-
That would have been a thing. But like,
Yeah, he
just
wasn't
kinda died
murdered. It
peacefully.
was and
I mean,
anytime
yeah.
Thor reflected on his dad, it was
He
Yeah,
drifted off peacefully, then immediately was met with their stepsister that they didn't know existed, and then they go to
Jeff Goldblum.
to War
Sakaar.
Hulk. That's what it was. Yeah,
Sakaar.
They
Yeah, it
went
wasn't quite Star Wars. It wasn't
Don't
War
call
World,
it that.
War, but
Don't call it that.
wasn't that's not World War. But the thing is, it's still they do have like the part when Hela first shows up. That's not played for laughs. That actually is played
Yeah,
more
it's
seriously.
more-
It's once they get to that War World with
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum, the fake War World. It gets more silly.
Oh no, that's not what happened next. What happened next is they went to they met up with Doctor Strange, right? And he was joking around with them in the house and stuff.
That was
And
before. That was
Like,
when
he
they
went
went
to Doctor
that's
Strange
when
to
That was
find
before,
Odin.
right? That was
to find
before,
their
that was
dad. To find their
Mm.
dad. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. They were trying to find Odin. Yeah.
To find Odin. Yeah. So they you can have an overall tone, but then within that tone, different
Yeah.
beats or different darkness or whatever. Shit.
I want to see
But,
how much they're gonna tone down Gore though, because he did some broken shit, and then we know that sword's strong enough to decapitate a Celestial. I'm like, they can't have him that strong. They can't, because I don't know how Thor beats him if he's that strong.
I wonder about that too, because we've seen the actual trailer for Multiverse of Madness. That's a Sam Raimi movie. Isn't that PG-13? Is that 13? I think it's
It's
PG-13.
PG-13.
Right.
They when it
So-
first dropped, they was like, "Oh, it's gonna be rated R," and then nope, it's PG-13.
Yeah, they did. So I think I don't know that Disney is that afraid to get a little dark with some of the things. I think Thanos. We all saw Thanos. He was killing folks. So I think they
Right.
will.
He caught some bodies.
Yeah. He had a body count. So I think they will, if they need to, they'll lean into the more mature content.
Well, that's all I have to say on the trailer. You guys have any other closing remarks? All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Then and Now podcast. We will see you guys next time. Houdini.
Just don't bring the voice to Gore. Please, Christian Bale, don't bring the voice to Gore.
Swear to me!